No! Help me! Please stop!
Stay quiet. You are mine now.
In Lagos, there is a Suya spot that has never had a bad night. Not during fuel scarcity, not during the floods of 2012, not even during COVID. When every other food vendor on that street shut down and prayed, Alhaji Musa cooked. Every single night. And the people came. They always came. By the time anyone started asking why his meat tasted the way it did, 3 people were already missing. Ajegunle Road in Lagos is the kind of street that never fully sleeps. By day, it belongs to the mechanism, the provision seller, the women frying akara by the gutter. But by night, it belongs to the smoke. And no smoke rose higher or smelled better than the smoke from Alhaji Musa's grill. He had been there for 11 years. Same spots, same zinc canopy, same white kaftan, stained orange as the sleeves from decades of Suya spices. He was a short man, quiet with eyes that smiled even when his mouth didn't. He knew his regulars by name. He remembered what cut they liked, how well done they wanted it, whether they preferred their Suya with tomatoes or without. People trusted him the way you trust a man who has fed you well for years. That trust is what made everything that followed so difficult to accept. The first time I ate Musa's Suya, I was 26 years old, Emeka said. My cousin Dare brought me. He said, Emeka, forget everywhere else. This is the one. He wasn't lying. I ate so much that night I couldn't sleep. Not from discomfort, from the memory of it that sounds estranged. But if you've tasted it, you'd understand. There was something in that meat that stayed with you. I just didn't know back then what that something was. Emeka Okafor was 31 when his suspicions began. He was a butcher by trade, second generation. His father had run a stall in Mile 12 Market for 30 years before his knees gave out and he handed the business to his son. Emeka knew meat the way a doctor knows a body. He knew what healthy muscle looks like. He knew the color of proper aging, the texture of clean fats, the way a fresh cut responds when you press it. He had handled beef, goats, ram, bushmeat and everything in between. So when something about Musa's Suya started to feel wrong to him, not in a way he could name at first, just a quiet professional unease, he paid attention. It started about 8 months ago. I was at Musa's spot with my neighbor, Bola. We were eating, talking, normal night, and I picked up a stick, looked at the meat properly for the first time in years. I'd been eating it on autopilot since my cousin introduced me. And something stopped me, Emeka said. The grain of the meat was wrong. Not spoiled, not bad, just not what I expected. Beef has a certain fiber pattern. Goat is different. Ram is different again. This had a grain I couldn't immediately place. I told myself it was the way he cut it, or maybe a different part of the animal, but I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking and thinking about it for 3 weeks. Emeka started going to Musa's spots with purpose. What had been a casual week habit became something else. A surveillance. He began noting details. First thing I checked, Emeka said, his supply chain. Every Suya man in Lagos buys from somewhere. Abattoir in Agege, Mile 12, Ketu. You see the delivery. Early morning, a small truck, carcasses wrapped in plastic or hanging open. Depends on who you use. Sometimes the man himself goes to the market. I asked around Musa's area. His neighbors, the woman who sells water sachets on the corner, she's been there 9 years. She said she had never, not once, seen a meat delivery at Musa's place. Not in 9 years. Emeka reasoned there could be explanations. Maybe Musa had his deliveries done very early, before the street woke up. Maybe he had a cold room somewhere else and transported it himself. So Emeka started waking up early, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. He would drive past Musa's compound, a modest bungalow, 2 streets behind the Suya spot, and watch. Nothing. No trucks, No coolers being loaded, no early morning movement at all. After 2 weeks of that, I told myself, Emeka said, maybe he just has a very discreet arrangement. Some butchers operate like that, especially if they are trying to cut out the middlemen. I almost stopped looking. Then Chisom disappeared. Chisom Nwachukwu was 19 years old. She lived 3 streets from Ajegunle Road with her aunt, who worked night shift at a private clinic. She was last seen on a Tuesday evening, walking towards the main road to buy airtime. Her aunt came home at 6 a.m. the next morning to an empty house. She reported it to the police that same day. The police logged it, asked a few questions, did very little. Missing young women in Lagos are tragically not unusually enough to generate urgency. Her aunts put up flyers. Her friends shared her photo on WhatsApp. The neighborhood talked about it for a week, then moved on the way neighborhoods do. I didn't connect it to Musa, Emeka said. Not then. Why would I? But 3 weeks later, a man went missing, Kunle. He was maybe 40, sold phone accessories from a kiosk not far from Musa's spot. Quiet man, no enemies that anyone knew of. Gone, just like that. His wife said he told her he was going out to eat that night. I still didn't connect it, not consciously, but something in my body started to become very, very uncomfortable every time I drove past that Suya spot. It was a conversation with his younger brother that finally broke something open in Emeka's mind. My brother Chidi is a medical student, Emeka said. He came to stay with me for a weekend, and I took him to Musa'S because that's what you do when someone visits you. You take them to the best food you know. He ate, enjoyed it. We were walking back to the car and he said, almost like he was thinking out loud, what animal is this from? I said I assumed it was beef. He said, the fat distribution is unusual for beef. And the smell when it's on the fire, there's something almost... He stopped himself, laughed a little, said never mind. He was being strange. I asked him to finish the sentence. He said, and I will never forget this, he said, it smells almost metabolic, like something that was alive recently, in a different way. He laughed again and we changed the subject. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, Emeka did something he had never done before in 11 years of eating Musa's Suya. He took a piece home. I know a lab technician, Emeka said. We went to secondary school together. I called him, told him I needed a favor. Unofficial, quiet. He asked what I wanted tested. I said I wanted to know what animal the protein came from. He laughed, said that was an unusual request. I told him I was serious. He took the sample. I waited 4 years. When he called me back, he didn't see anything for a moment. I could hear him breathing. Then he said, Emeka, where did you get this? I said, just tell me what you found. He said, the mitochondrial markers are primates. I ran it twice. This is not beef, not goat, not any livestock animal. This is primate protein. Almost certainly. He didn't finish. I finished for him. I said, human. He said, I think you need to be very careful. There is a particular kind of horror that doesn't announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly, like water under a door. By the time you notice it, the room is already flooded. Emeka sat in his car outside the lab and didn't move for 2 hours. I thought about every person I had brought to that spot. My cousin Dari, my neighbor Bola, my own brother. Just that weekend, I thought about Chisom, about Kunle. I thought about the hundreds of people I had seen standing in that line over 11 years, laughing, eating, licking their fingers. I thought about myself, and then I thought about Alhaji Musa, the quiet man, the generous man, the man who remembered your name and knew how well done you liked your meat. I sat there and I asked God, how long? 11 years. The spot had been open. How long had he been doing this? Emeka made a decision. He would not go to the police yet, not without more. He had one lab result, unofficial, from a favor. If he walked into a station with that, they might dismiss it. Or worse, Musa might be tipped off and disappear before anything could be done. He needed to find the source. I started following him properly, not just driving past in the morning. I mean following him. I borrowed my friend's motorcycle so he wouldn't recognize my car. I started from 2 a.m. because by 1 a.m. his spot was usually winding down. First 3 nights, nothing interesting. He cleaned up, packed his things, walked home, went inside, lights off by 2:30. Fourth night was different. He didn't go home. He walked in the opposite direction, past the mechanic shop, past the junction, down a road I never had reason to use. It leads towards the old industrial area near the canal. I followed from a distance. He was carrying a cooler, a small one, the kind you'd carry drinks in. He went into a building I can only describe as forgotten. It looked like a former factory office, maybe 1970s construction. Windows bricked over, padlocks on the front, but not on the other side entrance. He went in. I parked the bike and waited. He came out 40 minutes later without the cooler. Emeka went back to that building the following night, alone at 3 a.m. What he found inside, he has described it in detail, only once to investigators. He has never spoken about it in public in full, but this is what he has confirmed. There was a room in the back, Emeka said, kept very cold. He had a small industrial cooling unit running off a generator, proper cold, like a butcher's cold room. On one side, equipment, cutting equipment, industrial grade, clean, organized. On the other side, shelving, wrapped packages, labeled in a code I didn't understand at first, numbers and letters, but some of them had dates, recent dates, and then I saw it on the floor, in the corner under a black tarpaulin. I won't describe what was under it. I'll just say, when I lifted that tarpaulin, the investigation stopped being about Suya. I called my lab contacts from outside the building. I was shaking so badly, I dropped my phone twice. When he picked up, I couldn't speak for almost a minute. He said, Emeka, whatever you found, get away from there first, then call someone. I got on the motorcycle, I drove, I didn't stop for a long time. Emeka eventually called the police, not his local station. He didn't trust it. He contacted the state CID directly, through a contact his father had from years ago. 2 detectives came to him quietly the next morning. He showed them the lab results. He told them everything. He drew them a map to the building. What they found there over the next 48 hours would consume them for months. Investigators discovered that Musa had been operating for a minimum 7 years, possibly longer. Evidences suggested the operation predated his current spot on Ajegunle Road. There were records pointing to a previous location in Mushi that had been quietly closed before he moved. The missing person cases in the area, Chiso, Kunle, and 4 others spanning several years, were formally connected to the sites within weeks. More connections were being investigated at the time of the story's documentation. The detective handling the case told me something I keep coming back to. He said, the worst part isn't him. The worst part is how long it took anyone to notice. And the reason it took so long is that the product was too good. People were too satisfied to ask questions. That sentence stayed with me. Too satisfied to ask questions? Alhaji Musa was arrested on a Thursday evening. Not dramatically. There were no sirens on Ajegunle Road. No crowd scene. 4 men in plain clothes walked into his spot at 8 p.m., his busiest hour. Customers were eating. The grill was going. They identified themselves quietly. Musa looked at them for a long moment. According to one of the officers present, he didn't run, didn't shout, didn't deny anything. He turned off the grill, wiped his hands on his kaftan, and walked with them. Someone told me a customer asked what was happening as they led him out, Emeka said. And Musa, as they walked in past the line of people waiting to eat, said calmly, the spot is closed tonight. That's all. The spot is closed tonight. Like it was a power outrage. Like it was nothing. That detail alone, I can't explain why. That detail disturbs me more than anything else about this story. Ajegunle Road changed after that. The other Suya sellers on the street saw their business collapse for nearly 4 months. Nobody wanted Suya from that area. Nobody wanted to think about it. Some of the families of the missing found answers they had waited years for. Others found answers they had not known they were still looking for. Emeka stopped selling meat for a while. He said he needed time away from meat. He eventually returned because it was all he knew and all his father had left him. But he still cannot eat suya. People ask me, why didn't anyone notice sooner? Emeka asked. 11 years, hundreds of customers, nobody. And I think the honest answer is, we don't investigate pleasure. When something tastes good, when it makes you feel good, when it becomes a habit that you love, you protect that feeling. You don't pull at it. We are not suspicious of joy. And Musa understood that better than any of us. The grill is still there. Someone told me they saw it recently, just sitting in the empty lot, rusting. Nobody has touched it. Nobody wants to. There are things in this city that survive on your trust, on your hunger, on your willingness to enjoy something without asking where it came from. Most of the time, that's fine. Most of the time, this has been unspoken. Sleep well.